You're listening to the radio voice of Kutztown University, KUR Kutztown, and this is the Golden Hour, your weekly home for all things roundups, insights, discussions, and interviews about all things Kutztown sports. And today is a great edition. I am joined by national championship winning head coach Marci Scheuing. Coach Scheuing, thank you so much for joining the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, Coach, I just want to start a little bit with your own story. We've talked a little bit about it in the past, but what was your journey like to get to Kutztown as the head coach?
Yeah, so I actually played in the Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference, but I played for Mansfield University. And we had just actually played Kutztown, and we were here, and we lost in double overtime. And we were walking to the bus, and I said to my teammates, I'm going to be the head coach here someday. And they looked at me like I was crazy and were like, we just lost, what are you talking about? And I said, no, I really am. It's like, close to my parents' house. It's close to home. It's in the PSAC. I knew I wanted to coach. And it just seemed like a perfect spot for me to end up. And years later, I put a lot of work in. I ended up here. So it really was kind of fate.
When did you know that you wanted to pursue coaching as a career?
When I was in high school, I actually had a male basketball coach who was not a good coach at all, just not in any way, shape, or form. And I vowed then that I really wanted to be a coach so that athletes could feel better about themselves and just treat them, the way that I would want to be treated. And that's how we try to do things, here at Kutztown. But it is difficult because different kids like to be coached differently. So trying to figure out what ticks in one athlete might be different from another. But most of my coaching comes from a bad experience that I had and me trying to make it better for these kids.
So that's a good segue. What's been the most rewarding part of building this program over the last the number of years you've been here?
Yeah, it's I think I'm just on 12 years now, and the most rewarding part is definitely seeing the impact that you can have on student athletes and just their development and growth. And the whole purpose is to get them ready for the real world and where they're going next and giving them life lessons and different things. It's obviously fun to win along the way, but what's more important is the people that they become before they leave.
Absolutely. So I want to look back a little bit to the winning part, which was in 2023. It was a historic year for you guys, the first national championship in program history. Mm-hmm. Looking back, what stands out the most from that year?
We were mad from the year before because we didn't get selected for the NCAA tournament and we thought we should. So we called it the Revenge Tour, and it just felt so complete at the end, winning the whole thing, because we hadn't gotten in the year before, and we always felt like the underdogs, and we just had something to prove and a chip on our shoulders. And it was just so neat to see the whole thing come to fruition after being so disappointed a year prior.
What did you see in that group early on that really made you believe, we can go all the way here?
Yeah, they wouldn't take no for an answer from anybody. They didn't care what anybody else was bringing. They just played their game. They played like a team. We had some amazing players, but some really good leadership and key parts that really helped us get there. But it just was a total team effort, and that includes every kid that got on the field and that didn't. We had a really large senior class, and they were so supportive and just wanted the best for the program.
Was there a particular turning point or moment where you thought this team is really special?
Yeah, there was a couple of them throughout that year, but earlier in that year we had upset a couple teams and beat some teams that we maybe hadn't in the past. And after those games, I was like, we must be the real deal. This must be real this year.
So take us back to the championship game, the winning moment. What was going through your mind as those final couple minutes started to tick away? You're up 2-1 against East Stroudsburg.
Yeah, you can ask my assistant. I blacked out. We were up 2-1 with, I think there was a good 6-7 minutes left in the game. And for those last 6 or 7 minutes, I can't remember breathing. I just kept thinking, because ESU that year had some scores. They had some unbelievable people. And I remember Maddie Klein took a corner shot for them and it just sailed over our cage, and just a couple really close calls. And then I just remember watching a freshman, Jess Trainer, dribble the ball out and had possession and the clock was ticking. And I was like, oh my God, this is real. This is going to happen. I was in such disbelief because East Stroudsburg was such an amazing team with tons of seniors and lots of experience. I knew we could compete. I just didn't know we were going to win it. And it was the most incredible experience of my life. Very surreal is the word that I would use.
Personally, what did that moment mean to you personally as a coach?
Yeah, well, at different schools, not at Kutztown, I went 0-18 twice, winless, two different times at two different schools I was at my very first year at both of those places. So to go from that and being really down and not thinking that I would be a good coach and really self-doubt and questioning myself to the pinnacle of the sport, it's just incredible. I'm glad I didn't give up because, I eventually got there at Kutztown, but it would have been very easy to walk away at those times with the first two schools. And I'm glad that I didn't because it really did pay off in the end.
And you made it back to the national championship game last year, but ultimately fell just short in overtime. Yeah. What did you learn from coaching in that year or just really about the team?
Yeah, that's what I learned was that it's really hard to win a national championship. It's really hard to get back to the national championship, and it's really hard to win it twice because that whole year last year, everybody's gunning for you and gunning for you hard because they want to be the ones to say, we upset the team that won the national championship last year. So every game we got everyone's Super Bowl. We got everybody's, best game of the year. I was really proud of that team for embracing that and handling that. And in the end, St. Anselm just finished when it mattered. And we played a nice game. We upset Ship the day before. We weren't even technically supposed to be in the national championship because Ship was a really good team loaded with talent. So that was an upset. And then we made it to the national championship, dominated a lot of the game, and then just lost it in overtime. And credit to St. A's. They had 10 seniors that started, big senior laden team for them. And they just really carried through that, that championship game with a lot of heart.
Yeah, you talked about Shippensburg. 2023 and 2024, you guys lost to them. Yeah. I believe it was twice in the regular season or once in the regular season, then in the PSAC tournament, but ultimately on the way to the national championship game, beat them again. What is kind of like it seems like they get you twice, but you always get them in the end when it counts. What can you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, they're an amazing program, and they have a lot of skilled and talented players. I think it's always going to be a battle, but I know the old saying goes, it's really hard to beat a team 3 times. And I actually think that's very true. I think we prepared really well for them. We saw what they had, what they were trying to do to us in those first 2 losses. And we made a ton of adjustments, changed different things in our offense and our press and just things we were trying to do. And I think we sort of figured out where they were vulnerable and took great advantage of that.
So you talked about how in 22 you guys felt like you were snubbed and that motivated you for 23. Did the loss in 24 kind of motivate you going this year forward?
You could say that, yes. It was, I don't know the words for it, but extremely emotional and gut-wrenching, losing a national championship. And then we had a 10-hour bus ride home. It was the lowest moment for a lot of us. And I think that motivates us even more to come back even stronger and prove a point again.
So moving into this year, it definitely seems like you've come out with something to prove. The scoring margin is 48-3 right now. What's been the key to that early success?
Our team is special. This group, they are completely bought in. They play for each other. There is no one person that is the star of our team. There are, at any given time, 11 people on that field that can get the job done. But if you look down our scoring, I think 17 kids on our team have registered a point or a goal or have contributed in some way on the offensive side. And that's what the difference is. We're not just a threat. You can't just shut down one person with us because once you shut that person down, somebody else is going to be able to finish and put that ball in. So I think we're just better because we're deeper. And even when I put in our whole first line of subs, they're extremely fast and extremely talented as well. So teams can't really slow down against us because we just go fast all the time.
Yeah, I saw that personally against the Juve. It was really just nonstop, no matter who was on the field.
Yeah,
and it is a team effort. But who are some players, if you had to just pick a couple, that have really stepped up, either that surprised you or have just been key contributors?
Yeah, I think when you talk about us, and you have to obviously talk about Erin Gonzalez. She was our team's leading scorer last year with 13 goals. She's an All-American. She's one of the fastest kids in the country. She's such a great leader too. So you always have to talk about her. Grace Harold plays in the midfield for us, more of a defensive-minded midfielder. Her stick is like a magnet. She's incredible. We always joke she can see into the future because of some of the plays that she makes. We got a transfer from Liberty, Olivia Kirkpatrick, who has moved into the center back spot and just been unbelievable for us back there. She's like a quarterback, tells everybody what to do and kind of guides things from back there. I mean, I could just go on and on and on, though. There's so many great players. Jess Trainer on the left side for us is definitely underrated in the sense of doesn't get the credit she deserves, but she does so incredibly much for us as a program, and we wouldn't be as good as we are without her.
So, despite the early on success, every team has strengths and areas to improve. What do you want to see develop as the season continues to go on?
I I want to see. We have a freshman goalie that's starting right now, so I want her to continue to develop her confidence. All of our goalkeepers. We had another goalie that was originally our starter, and she got injured. And then the two, Elena and Tess, battled it out, and they've really stepped up back there this year. And I think, we were bound to have somebody new in there because Mia Kepler graduated. So we were just trying to find the right person. And all three of them bring such special like intensity and athleticism. So it's exciting to kind of see in the bigger games what's going to happen with the goalkeeper position. But I think they're ready for it. And I think the confidence is up right now. And then, our offensive push as a whole is scary. I mean, we're averaging 8 goals a game right now after 6 games. And we're not just, Wingate was 13-6 last year and we beat them 9-0. And Southern New Hampshire, we played in the NCAA tournament in double overtime last year and we beat them 9-2. So I do think this is a year where we know how to finish, and that's scary for other teams.
Yeah, conference play is kicking off very shortly. I think Millersville on Wednesday is the first.
That's actually still a non-conference
Still a
game.
non-conference.
Saturday against Mansfield's our first.
So conference play getting into set going here. How do you approach preparing for the PSAC? It's by far, in my opinion, the best conference in Division II field hockey. How do you prepare for that?
Yeah, it's exhausting. But I'd rather play those teams than cupcake teams any day because it just makes you better. It makes them better. But we prepare for them by going over film and, we know their styles generally from playing them year after year. But figuring out who for them this year is really stepping up and what press is going to work against them and how our defense should come out on corners and what corners of ours will work against the defense they're running. So just going through all the analytical stuff and just figuring out, it's like a chess match. I'm trying to figure out what they're going to do. They're trying to figure out what I'm going to do. And at the end of the day, who can do it better when they, perform on the field.
So we'll talk specifics a little bit. You have Millersville next up. What do you see when you look at them? What are you expecting and how do you prepare?
Yeah, Millersville's always a solid, good team. They are physically strong. They're strong on the ball. They are very, tough, I would say. So we definitely have to muscle up a little bit and know that we're going to have to get pushed around a little bit, but we're going to try and use skill to make good decisions and hockey IQ to make good passes and use our speed to our advantage.
So you talked about it a little bit. When you've been to back-to-back national championship games, you're kind of circled on everyone's schedules. Yeah. But other than just being a target, what are some of the bigger challenges that you anticipate as the season goes on?
Yeah, always trying to avoid injuries. We have a couple right now with kids out and different things. But the good part about our team is that we have a lot of depth this year. So even if somebody does get injured, there's somebody ready and willing and able to step right in. So I think that's the thing that sets us apart probably from the others is how deep we can go despite having a couple injuries already.
So what specific goals have you set with this team in 2025?
So we want to win a national championship. But before that, we're not jumping the gun. We want to win the PSAC. And so that's something that we haven't done yet here at Kutztown. We've made it to the championship game. We've made it to the Final Four. But we've never actually won the championship here. So that is definitely this year's goal.
Yeah, so we've talked about that a little bit just in the past. The team has never actually won the PSAC despite appearing in back-to-back national championship games. What do you think is kind of the reasoning behind that? It seems like the PSAC tournament might honestly be more difficult than the national tournament.
There was a number of years where the person that won the PSAC did not win the national championship, and there's a reason. It's because you kind of give everything you can to make it to that championship game in the conference. And it's a dogfight and it's really exhausting and you use a lot to get there. And then to win it is very difficult. So I think once you get there, once you win it, it's hard then to get your bodies ready to go play another game just like that for a national championship.
So when you think about the identity of this year's team, how would you describe it?
Team first. I mean, they care so much more about other success and the team success than they do about their own success. And that's what sets this team apart. And that's why they've been so successful. They're always looking, where's the next best pass? Not, can I go score this and make this about me? It's definitely a team first attitude.
Yeah, and I want to look at kind of the rest of your schedule here, and you certainly don't want to like circle any one game, but something that I noticed right at the end of the regular season, November 1st, right before the PSAC playoffs kick off, it is
It
Shippensburg.
is.
Are you anticipating that's going to be a big playoff seeding game? Just kind of looking, you don't want to look past, the rest of the PSAC schedule that you have, but what excites you about that game?
Yeah, I mean, Ships, it's just always a great game. They're super competitive. They do have a brand new head coach. So they'll look a little different than they did last year. Not good or bad, just different. So we have a lot of time to wait and see what happens with them and where we're both at that point. You never know what the season's going to bring. But that's obviously, we could play them that week and then play them the next week again, in the PSAC tournament and then the week after that, possibly in the NCAA tournament, just depending on how things go. So I'm excited to get there though, and to, see what our competition level is against some of these top teams.
In the Division II game, it's really not as big. That I know that I've noticed just from learning all about field hockey. My sister's been in the recruiting process for a number of years, but there's only really not, I guess, more than a handful. But there's not as many Division II schools compared to like D1 or D3.
Right.
You guys have played a good amount of relatively new programs, like Roberts Wesleyan's on your schedule again.
Mm-hmm.
You just had DUville. Is that kind of intentional to try and grow the game where you're like getting some of these younger teams in there?
Yeah, no, it's actually out of, I don't want to say desperation, but it's hard to schedule teams. And when you're very good, sometimes teams want to play you, but sometimes they don't. So it's hard to get people to play you. And so there's not that many schools to choose from in Division II. So you just have to play whoever's available and whoever will play you. And it's more out of like location wise, they're not that far. Budget wise, it's a little more reasonable than traveling all the way to the South. But it's just, so I would not say it's not strategic. It's just out of, that's who's in the area to play.
Why do you think that is, that there's so many Division III teams, there's so many Division I teams, but Division II just in field hockey just doesn't seem to have the same upkeep?
Yeah, I wish they did. And it is growing. We are the fastest growing division, unbelievably. But like we've added the South Athletic Conference, we've added that whole conference over the last couple of years. And I know Conference Carolinas is talking about breaking off and being their own conference as well. So it'll be interesting to continue to see the growth. Because the sport is growing nationally. So I do think it will, and Division II is a great place to do it. But I'm not sure why. I think a lot of schools just chose to add lacrosse instead of field hockey. So hopefully our trend can go that way as well.
This is the Golden Hour with head coach Marci Scheuing. Do you think that kind of hurts from like a recruiting standpoint, is there anything like when you're looking for new players, does it help that there's not as many Division II schools to go to? Doesn't necessarily hurt because now players are choosing between 3 different divisions because there's not as many D2 schools to go to?
Yeah, I find when I first got here, we were competing with a lot of Division III schools for players. But now where we're at, we're competing with very, very, very strong, good Division I programs for these players. And actually a lot of times we end up getting them because those kids want an opportunity to play for a national championship, and they like the fact that they can do that, where whatever Division I school they might be picking, they probably aren't going to get that opportunity because it's not North Carolina or it's not some of those top dogs. So they know it's much more realistic at this level, and they want to play too. So I think those things come into factor.
This is kind of more of just a curious question for me. Where would you, like, there's always a debate in football, like, could a Division II team go? Yeah. What do you think is, like, the toughest D1 team that you guys could compete with?
Ooh, that's a great question. We play several of them in the spring, and we've beat all of them. So I think we would be competitive with the mid to low teams in Division I. Once you get into that top 25, we're not there. That's a whole different brand of hockey. But I think, I don't know, some of those conferences, I think any PSAC school goes into those and could be 500 to start in in so many of our athletes, so many of, Westchester, Ship, East Stroudsburg. I mean, I could go on and on. Those athletes were looking at Division I schools, a lot of the ones that you're probably talking about. So it would be interesting to see. But what I will say is I know for a fact we could be competitive at those levels.
Yeah, the PSAC is you've been doing this a lot longer than I have, obviously, but just the number of years that I've been watching, it is brutal.
It is brutal.
Just the number of top 10 teams
Yes.
in the country that come out of this conference.
Yeah. And they're good. They're skilled, and it's good hockey, And so I think that's the hard part is there is no cupcake teams in the PSAC. Whoever's on the bottom, even that year, has probably beat somebody and probably beat a lot of the teams outside of the PSAC. So it's exhausting.
I remember the IUP game last year was one of the first ones that I was at. And it was that Family Day game that went into like shootouts, shootouts, double overtime. Yeah. And IUP is not. I don't remember how they finished, but it wasn't particularly like.
They actually upset Ship last year.
They got Ship in the last game of the season. I mean, they battled you guys, and that's like a lower PSAC team. Like that's not. They weren't ranked or anything.
Right. They're incredible.
Just tough teams
they're
all
a
up and down the board.
Team. They have amazing players on that IUP team. Very skilled, very high level hockey, and that's what I'm saying. You can't take any of them lightly because they are all just so deep and so talented and so skilled. If you sleep on somebody, you'll lose. So you have to make sure that you're taking every team seriously.
Absolutely. So I'll have one last question here, then I'll let you go. And I'm sure you're busy, but what do you want Kutztown fans to know about this year's group specifically, and why should they be excited to follow along?
Yeah, I would follow this group. They're special. They're different. They are extremely unselfish and just obviously good kids and great players, but it's for me the putting the we before the me, and they just embrace that wholly. And I really think that most of my athletes would rather have an assist than a goal. Like they would rather set somebody up to look really good, and if it meant we won, than for them to get the spotlight. And that really sets this team apart.
Well, Coach, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was great. Good luck.
Thank you so
for the
much.
next couple of weeks. I'll be at a few. But certainly should be exciting to watch you guys through the rest of the season. We'll step aside here in the Golden Hour, more on the other end when we come back. Back here on the Golden Hour, Coach Scheuing has left the studio. Thank her again for coming on. That was a great interview. She's always great to talk to. I've called a number of games at the field hockey level. Or for the field hockey team at the Division II level, and she's always great, giving you anything you need, questions, stats, any talking points that you may have. And I think she said a lot of really great things in that interview, a lot of great insights. Certainly loved having her on the show. Maybe even we'll have her again at some point. But I wanted to finish off the field hockey talk here by looking just at the first few games that they've played. They are 6-0. Through the first 6 games of the season, and really, these games haven't even been competitive. They opened the season against number 8 Southern New Hampshire, which Coach Scheuing talked about. That was a team that they faced in the first round of the NCAA Division II playoffs last year, and they beat them 9-2. Then they went up to the Mansfield Fall Classic. They beat Southern Connecticut State 8-0, St. Michael's 9-0, before coming back home and facing Wingate, IUP, and Duville. They beat Wingate 9-0. IUP, they beat 4-1, and then Duville, they beat 9-0 last Friday. They have Millersville, which is a conference opponent, but still technically an out-of-conference game, on Wednesday. That's September 14th at 6 o'clock. And then they will head on the road to officially begin PSAC conference play against Mansfield. They'll take a quick break to go down to Roberts Wesleyan, or up to Roberts Wesleyan, I should say, in Rochester, New York, one of the newer Division II programs that we talked about a little bit earlier on in the show. Then they are at East Stroudsburg on October the 1st on Wednesday. That is a great game, always is, between Kutztown and East Stroudsburg, 2 top-tier programs there. Back home against Bloomsburg on October the 4th at 5 p.m. Back out to IUP. So IUP came out earlier in the season. Now Kutztown will go on the road to see them before coming back home against Westchester and Slippery Rock on the road against Millersville, Frostburg State, and Maryville. And then back home against Shippensburg, which will almost assuredly be a heavyweight matchup between Kutztown and Shippensburg right before the PSAC tournament kicks off. So that'll do it for our field hockey talk here. They are well on their way to getting back to another national championship game. They certainly have some potential speed bumps in the road, but ultimately, I mean, they have been driving about 130 miles an hour, if this was a highway here, to the PSAC not only the PSAC round, but the national championship round is, interestingly enough, it came up again. Kutztown in the program's history has never won the conference, but they have been to back-to-back national championships, winning one. Just goes to show you how brutal the conference can be. And a lot of great insight from Coach Scheuing there. A lot of times the teams are so beat up because of how brutal the PSAC schedule is that even if they get out of there with a PSAC victory, they're so tired, they're so exhausted, they're in that like they don't end up winning the national championship game because it took everything they had just to win the conference. Ultimately, Kutztown fell up a little bit short, which might have even seemed to potentially help them in the national picture. They were bounced in the semifinals for both games in 23 and 24. Maybe that extra bit of rest, not having to play the PSAC championship game, was a big reason that they ultimately went out and were able to win the national championship game. Just speculation there, obviously. But we'll turn to football here about half hour into the golden hour. Kutztown football is 3-0 on the year. They just beat Gannon on Family Day by a score of 46-7. That's another team that has just been dominating schools throughout the first couple weeks of the game. They beat Assumption 51-14. Went on the road to Edinburgh, shut them out, won 34-0 before heading back home, like I just said, against Gannon on Family Day. Gannon, never really had a shot in that game. Kutztown will head out to Shepherd this week on Saturday, the 27th. The Rams have played a lot of competitive games, but are ultimately 0-3 as they just have not been able to get in the win column here. So another winless team Kutztown faces early on over there in West Virginia. They lost to Frostburg State 27-41 in their home opener. Then they went out to Slippery Rock. They lost in overtime there against the Rock, who was ranked number 4 in the country, 35-28. That was an overtime loss. And then they went out to Clarion. Clarion's still unbeaten. They won 58-38 at home. So Shepherd has actually yet to have a home game. This will be their home opener against the Golden Bears. That's their Family Day up in Shepherdstown, West Virginia, as they try to upset the number 5 team in the country. I believe Kutztown is still number 5. I don't think they've moved. They started at 7 in the national poll and moved up to 6 and then 5 in previous weeks. And they've held at 5 for this week after an impressive win over Gannon. Shepherd, though, still looking for their first program win over Kutztown. They have yet to beat the Golden Bears since coming back to the conference in 2019. They played in 2019 and lost to Kutztown 34-27, lost 37-29 in 2021, 22-3 in 2023, and then were shut out 24-0 in 2024. So Shepherd has never beat Kutztown. They have a chance to do it at home on this Saturday, the 27th. We won't have radio coverage of that game, but we'll have a pregame, halftime show, and postgame show, as well as if there is a radio call of that Shepherd game that is a good enough quality, we'll get that for you as well, and we'll have live reactions to that game as well. But turning back to this Gannon game, I want to look at the box score here. It was a complete special teams domination from Kutztown. There was 2 blocked punts, a blocked field goal. One of those blocked punts was returned for a touchdown. And it really felt like last weekend was the weekend for special teams blocks. In the NFL, there was 3 in the 1 o'clock slate. The Eagles had 1 to ultimately win the game against the Rams. Jordan Davis took it back for a touchdown. The Cleveland Browns had 1 to upset the Packers, and then the Jets had 1 against the Bucks. Although, of course, the Jets still lost that game despite blocking a field goal and returning it for a touchdown to take the lead. But we won't dive into that. Leave it be. And then in the college game as well, there was all kinds of blocks as well. Kutztown had 3 of them. And they also had a kick return for a touchdown. Lanique Preston, who just seems to be a human highlight reel, had the SportsCenter top 10 catch in the first game of the season against Assumption, has a 100-yard kickoff return back home against Gannon. It seems like whenever he's at Andre Reed, it's like his superpowers activate. He's good for a highlight play every time he's here. He has been a very impressive new addition to this team. He was on the team last year, but didn't contribute much. Has certainly contributed this year. He's been given an opportunity with some of the graduations that Kutztown has had. and he has not spoiled them in the slightest. He has been making the most of his opportunities here. If we look just at the scoring summary real quick, it was Quinton Potus, a member of that special teams unit, that was credited with the touchdown return off of the blocked punt. I believe it was Michael LeMay, the defensive back, that ultimately blocked that one. Trevor Moore would then get in the back of the end zone on a 10-yard touchdown pass from Judd Novak. That was capped off with a fake extra point by Ben Martin III, who snuck in at holder and ran that one in to extend Kutztown's lead to 15. Gannon would get on the board for the only time today on a Tristan Keenan 5-yard touchdown run. That was a 14-play, 75-yard drive that ate up 7 minutes and 33 seconds of clock. So really the best drive of the day for the Gannon Golden Knights. But Kutztown from there would just not let up. They had a Will Smith field goal from 31 yards out. That was his first field goal of the year, first team field goal of the year. On the 9-play, 55-yard drive, Gino Campagna would have his first career touchdown, the redshirt senior, usually more of a blocking tight end in this offense. Snuck out from right off of the right tackle, was unmarked in the back of the end zone. Novak just lofted a 3-yard pass to him, and clearly Campagna is loved by his teammates because he was mobbed by the entire offensive line, by every receiver, running back. It was a great moment there at Andre Reed Stadium. That capped off a 6-play, 27-yard drive that ultimately resulted in Campagna's first touchdown. That takes us to 25-7. Monique Preston had his aforementioned 100-yard kickoff return, brought the lead to 32-7. Stephen Burkhart would have an 18-yard touchdown run. That capped off a 12-play, 92-yard drive that ate up 6 minutes of clock to bring it to 39-7. And then Ben Martin III would get his first touchdown of the year. The running back would run in a 2-yard touchdown run and extend the lead to 46-7, where it would end the scoring for the day. Looking at some of the stats here, Kutztown had 233 rushing yards. They've been a very rush-first team throughout the first couple games of the season. We have an interview from Judd Novak that talked about that we'll play in just a little bit. They had 35 rushing attempts, the same as Gannon, but Gannon only had 92 yards. So the rush defense for Kutztown really came to life, and that was without Freddie Redder. Standout defensive tackle Freddie Redder has not played. He didn't play against Gannon, and he has played limited snaps in the first couple games. Some kind of lingering injury there. We don't know what it is. We don't want to speculate. But ultimately, he was not in uniform yesterday. It didn't really seem to matter. Defensive line stepped up without him. Braden Pullman, who is typically right behind Redder on the depth chart, came in and had a number of sacks, tackles for losses. He played terrifically. So it seems like this defensive line has a ton of depth and did not lose anything despite being down Freddie Redder. The passing attack for Kutztown is, you don't want to say the biggest question mark because they won 46-7, but if you had to pick something that could use some improvement, it was the passing game. Only 83 yards total passing on 21 attempts. Only about 4 yards in the air. 10 of 21 was the passing game as a whole, divided between Judd Novak and Jacob Zamat. Zamat came in towards the end once the game was secured. Zamat has appeared along with the rest of the Kutztown backups in every single game this season, which is incredibly rare. The fact that your backup quarterback is able to get this many reps, and it's not a bad thing, right? Kutztown is blowing teams out, which they typically have not done in the past few years. But able to get some key reps for some of the future Golden Bears here who are currently down on the depth chart. As we look at these team stats here, I want to see where Kutztown's at. Not just in this game, but where they stand for the year. They're averaging 43.6 points a game. They're only allowing 7. That's good for top 10 in the country. They have a total of 896. Let's see what the net rushing is. 761 total rushing yards through 3 games. Only 441 passing yards. So a dominant rush-first attack from this Golden Bears team, and they are not letting up at all. As we take a look at some of the leading rushers, it was Jaden Stewart. Jaden Stewart didn't play a ton against Gannon. He played the first few drives, but then was subbed out for Stephen Burkhart, who really took things the rest of the way. Stewart's had a great first couple of games. A number of long touchdown runs. He has 3 total, a long of 62 was his longest touchdown run. so far this season. He has 250 rushing yards through 3 games. Steven Burkhardt, right there behind him, he has 209 on 37 carries. Eli Cunningham has 75, the third-string running back. Judd Novak has 72 total rushing yards. Jacob Zamat has 50, the backup quarterback. Ben Martin, the fourth, another running back down that depth chart there. Ben Martin, the third, has 39 total rushing yards. So it's just been a rush-first team, and the defensive unit for Kutztown has been just as good as last year. Eden Johnson leading the tackles with 6. Brandon Strausser has 6 as well, as does Brandon Heil. Those 3 linebackers have been huge in the second level for Kutztown. If you take a quick peek at the rest of their schedule, they have won 4 straight against Shepherd, and they're the only 4 times that these two programs have met. They get them on Saturday, the 27th. We'll briefly play the interview that I sat down with Judd Novak before that Gannon game. We'll see what he had to say going into that game against the Golden Knights, and he lived up to a lot of what he predicted. Judd, you guys scored 51 and then 34 in back-to-back weeks. What's been working so well for you guys offensively?
I would say that I think we're just really trusting what our coaches are saying, and then I think we're just really doing well on the offensive side. I think our O-line's doing a great job. Receivers have been getting open, and then obviously our running backs are doing an extremely good job. Jaden Stewart and Steven Burkhardt are 2 guys that you can rely on, and I think they're doing an excellent job.
Yeah, speaking about the run game, you guys have been very run-heavy to start the year. Is that the identity of the team or the type of play that you want to establish or be defined by?
Yeah, I think definitely Kutztown's a run-heavy team. That's where we're kind of known by the rest of the PSAC. But we have players on our team that can do an even better job, like the receivers. I think we have a lot of great receivers. We will establish the run to set up the pass. I think that's kind of our like a motto and the way we operate. So I think our offensive line coach, Coach Taylor, does a great job with his O-linemen, and our receivers coach does an excellent job with the receivers, and Coach Q does a great job with calling the plays, establishing that run so we can set up the pass, and then once we can pass the ball, just let our receivers work.
What's so different from this year's squad compared to the last couple of years? Because you guys have always, you've controlled the PSAC, but you very rarely have put up the number of points that you've put up in the last couple of years. What's so different?
Yeah, I think we've kind of realized that, right? And then now we've been like, all right, we're a pretty dominant team. Let's do that on the offensive side. Our defense have always been there for us, so we're like, this year our where our minds are at is like no mercy, really. Just putting as much points as we can on the board. I feel like we could have put a little bit more points on Edinburgh, to be honest. But yeah, that's where our heads are at, is no mercy.
No mercy. I love it. What are you expecting out of Gannon this Saturday?
Yeah, Gannon. So they're 0-3. So that's just what they are right now. Their defense is kind of everywhere. So we're expecting to see a lot of stuff, a lot of blitzes, a lot of different coverages. We know that they're gonna do their best to try and stop us and stump us, but I think we have a good game plan, running what we can run and giving the ball to our playmakers.
So it's hard to point to much, but if you had to, where do you guys think you can improve?
We want to improve on our terminal downs, which is 3rd and 4th down. Our goal is to be over 50%. I think we've done a well job so far, but to just increase that percentage as we go on.
So that was quarterback Judd Novak on the Friday before that Gannon game this Saturday, and they felt like they could put more on Edinburgh. They probably could have. They won 34-0. They put up 46 against Gannon. These are all games where they're benching their starters. So the fourth quarters of these games are typically a wash because it's not your best guys playing. So Kutztown definitely has the capability to put more on these teams if they wanted to. They just haven't really wanted to, right? Why would you? You don't need to, kick a team while they're down. But no mercy. I love that quote from Novak. The offense has really come to life here. They've been a very defensively heavy team the last couple of years, which you still want a great defense, especially as you get in, deeper into the postseason. You start facing some really tough teams. But ultimately, Kutztown goes 1-0 against Gannon. They advance to 3-0 on the season as they really try to stay focused against Shepherd and looking at the Shippensburg and really looking at this Kutztown schedule. It's it's not a particularly difficult schedule. You don't want to sell any team short, but they have Shippensburg. Shippensburg has been struggling to start off the year. They have Lock Haven, Lillersville, all teams that not really at the top of their game in years past. Will get you official records in second year. Look at the standings. You can start to kind of look at the standings now that we're like 3 weeks into the season or so. But Shippensburg is 0-3, Shepherd's 0-3, Millersville is 0-3, Lock Haven is only 1-2, Bloomsburg's 1-2. Westchester and East Stroudsburg will be the toughest teams that Kutztown faces in the regular season so far. Anyway, they have East Stroudsburg sitting at 2-1. They had a tough loss against Edinburgh in the season opener, who Kutztown handled quite well, and that was on the road. Westchester's 2-1. Kutztown, the only unbeaten team in the PSAC East as we go over to the West, which has been a bit of a dogfight. Cal U and Slippery Rock still unbeaten, 2 top 10 ranked teams. They're going at it this week, so one will be ahead of the other this Saturday. We'll keep an eye on that game. Slippery Rock and Cal U have been the cup opponents that Kutztown has played in the PSAC Championship the last few years. It has mostly been Slippery Rock, but in 2024, it was California University of Pennsylvania that hosted the PSAC Championship game. And important to note, if Kutztown is able to win the East, they will host the PSAC Championship game. It alternates every single year based on, or between the East and the West. But that last week of the regular season, which is currently scheduled to be against IUP is at 2-1, so it's still an opportunity for IUP to get back into the PSAC Championship race. But having a loss when Clarion, Cal U, and Slippery Rock at 1, 2, and 3 have yet to lose, it's going to be tough for them. So certainly IUP is not out of it. They put a beating on Millersville this week. I want to say it was 70-0. Let me get the exact score, because they put on it was 70-24. Millersville lost. I mean, just an absolute beatdown. And Gannon, they lost 69-22 against East Stroudsburg before coming into Kutztown. So Kutztown actually has not put up as many points as some other PSAC teams have. But I would still argue that Kutztown is probably a better football team than those other ones. You certainly don't want to overlook anybody in the PSAC. It's can be such a tough conference here in Pennsylvania. But ultimately, Gannon, they fall to 0-4 after losing to Kutztown. They have a dogfight of a schedule coming up too. They're heading out to Slippery Rock and then Clarion. So it's entirely possible that Gannon is 0-6 midway through the season here, which is extremely tough to battle back from. We'll shift gears a little bit. We'll talk soccer and volleyball before we wrap things up here on the Golden Hour. Soccer team picked up their first loss of the year on Wednesday night. That was September 17th against Shepherd, who Kutztown will see in football. They lost 2-0 before going on the road going back home on Saturday against East Stroudsburg for their Orange Out game and won 2-0. So their first loss of the year, their first loss at home in a number of years. They didn't lose at home last year, only tied. You'd have to go back to 2023 to find the last time that Kutztown soccer ultimately fell at home. So the Shepherd hands them their first loss. They'll head out to Westchester on the 24th and then Shippensburg on the 1st for their next couple games. Next time Kutztown soccer will be at home will be October the 4th on Saturday against Bloomsburg. And it's just PSAC East matchups from here on out. They get Bloomsburg twice, once at home, once on the road. East Stroudsburg, they'll just go down the PSAC East here, playing each team twice, one there and then one on their home turf before the first round of the PSAC tournament starts to kick off. That is on November the 8th is when the women's soccer tournament will begin at the first rounds here in Division 2. This is the Golden Hour. Tommy Scuderi here with you if you're just joining us. We had field hockey head coach Marci Scheuing on the show a little bit earlier. She was great, gave us a lot of great insight there as to what's going on in that field hockey program, which is 6-0 right now with a 48-3 scoring margin. If you missed the earlier part of the show, field hockey teams dominating, football teams dominating, soccer still. I guess you can't say dominating if they've lost, but still on an impressive role here as a soccer team. They're 5-1, 3-1 in conference play. They're doing really well as well. So a lot of the fall sports here for Kutztown are up to a great start. Kutztown is outscoring their opponents goal-wise in soccer 18-5. 3 goals a game, 111 total shots. They're doing quite well. As we move gears here and check in on the field hockey team, or not the field hockey team, the volleyball team, I should say. We talked field hockey a little bit earlier. They are doing much better, is this volleyball team, than we saw last year. They went 1-27 in 2024, already at 4-5 this year. So head coach Jason Barshinger, who came in and inherited this program, has done some wonders with it. They beat Chestnut Hill, or they lost to Chestnut Hill in their home opener 3-1 before picking up their first win of the season against Lincoln in Philly, and then losing to Holy Family. The Shannon Sullivan Memorial Tournament, they won 2, lost 1, beat Bowie State 3-1, lost to Cal U 3-0, and beat Caldwell 3-0 before losing to Frostburg State at the DeUville University Tournament and Slippery Rock, but beating Assumption in a hard-fought 5-set match where they won 3-2. They're back home this Thursday against Georgian Court at 6 p.m. in the Keystone Arena. We'll take a look at that matchup. 4-3, Kutztown leads the all-time record between these two schools. Based out of Lakewood, New Jersey, is Georgian Court. Kutztown won the first two in 2011 and then 2018, which is the first time these two programs have met. Kutztown won 3-1 and 3-0 in those two respective matchups. They fell 3-0 in 2019, won 3-0 in 2021, fell in 2022 3-0. Won again 3-0 in 2023, and then fell 3-1 in 2024 on the road. So Georgian Court has a chance to tie up the all-time matchup at 4 apiece. Kutztown has a chance to get it to 5-3 and get a bit of a cushion there against Georgian Court. They head out to they head out to Wilmington, Delaware to face Lincoln and Goldie Beacom on Saturday the 27th. They'll face 2 teams there. Then they'll go back to Philly to face Jefferson on September the 30th before being back home for 2 straight matches against Westchester on October 3rd. That is the Friday, and then Millersville on October 4th. From there, it's pretty much just PSAC East matchups the rest of the way. Felician is a home matchup in there that Kutztown will see on October the 13th. Other than that, it's your usual foes in Shepherd, Shippensburg, Bloomsburg, Lock Haven, ESU, Westchester, the whole 9. 1 away, 1 home. That's how a lot of these sports here work at Division II. You'll play them once on their turf, and then you'll play them once on your home turf. So 4-5 is the start for this Kutztown volleyball team. Much, much better as they try and get back to the playoffs for the first time since 2011. Yeah, it's been a tough road for this volleyball team. Haven't been in the PSAC tournament in almost 14 years now. We'll try to end that here, and they have a shot, just 1 game or 1 match under 500. 20 left. They are 0-1 on the road, 2-2 at neutral sites, and 2-2 at home. So if they can just continue to use their home floor advantage, we can start to see some wins pile up for this Kutztown volleyball team down the road as they make their way back to the playoffs. Trying to get there for the first time since 2011. Final thing before we wrap up the show, we are just about a month or so from starting off basketball season. It's a little bit early to talk basketball a little bit in September, but late October is when you start seeing that pile up. Take a look at the women's schedule here. We're moving over to the men's. There's big sports there. So November 14th and 15th is when the women will start some out-of-conference play in Westchester. Before going, their home opener will be November the 19th. Janet Maloof and Justin Holman still at the helm of that women's program, but a new head coach for the men's team in basketball. Bernie Driscoll, the longtime head coach of that basketball program, did ultimately retire this offseason. So his longtime assistant, Tom York, is the interim head coach. They will start their season on November the 19th as well, as they try and break a playoff drought of their own. It's been tough sledding for the men's basketball team the last number of years as well. That will be a storyline to follow in about a month or so as we start really digging in to basketball season. But still in the fall sports here. Just wanted to give a little bit of a touch there on basketball as that's, preseason is underway, preparation practices, as you start to shape your offense, finalize rosters, and get ready to go there. But ultimately, the fall sports have been a resounding success for this Kutztown University teams. For these Kutztown University teams, I should say, is the proper way to put that. Volleyball, field hockey, soccer, and football all cooking with gas right now as we wrap up this edition of the Golden Hour. Big thanks again to head coach Marci Scheuing, who was on the program earlier, to quarterback Judd Novak, who was on the program a couple weeks ago, and again sat down for a quick interview before Friday's game. Great friends of the show. Always great to have athletes, coaches like that on. We'll try and have the goal is to get one every week, whether it be a player, a coach, whatever. Anyone has any suggestions, make sure you follow the social media account for the Golden Hour, the Golden Hour _KU on Instagram, and check out the YouTube channel, KUR the Golden Hour on YouTube. All these shows are recorded with a video camera as well. So if you don't like just the radio audio only version, there is a YouTube version as well, where we had the interview with Scheuing, and then more some fun graphics on there. I spent a lot of time doing those. So definitely make sure you're checking out the YouTube as well. We'll get you back to your regularly scheduled programming here on KUR. This is the radio voice of Kutztown University. Thank you all for listening to the Golden Hour.